The bright white lights of New Life Fertility Clinic made John Martinez squint as he walked through the automatic glass doors. His worn sneakers squeaked against the clean tile floor. The clock on the wall showed 2:30 p.m., perfect timing for his appointment. With only $20 in his wallet and 3 past-due bills in his apartment, the clinic's $100 for donors sign had caught his attention like a lifeline. John's threadbare backpack, full of medical textbooks, felt heavy on his shoulders. Being a medical student was his dream, but the costs were crushing him. He hadn't told his parents about his money problems. They had already spent their savings to help him get into medical school. This seemed like an easy way to make some quick cash. Mr. Martinez. The receptionist called his name with a friendly smile. Please fill out these forms and then head to room 3. As John worked through the paperwork, he didn't notice the strange blue-skinned woman in a lab coat watching him through the one-way glass window. Her large, almond-shaped eyes studied his every movement. She touched a hidden device in her ear and whispered, "Subject matches genetic markers. Proceeding with collection." After completing the forms, John followed the signs to room 3. The small room contained a comfortable chair, a TV, some magazines, and a specimen cup. Standard stuff. Exactly what he expected from his medical training. What he didn't expect was the slight humming sound coming from somewhere in the walls. "Please provide your sample and press the green button when finished," a voice said through the intercom. John nodded, not knowing that 3 sets of alien eyes were watching him through advanced scanning equipment hidden in the walls. 20 minutes later, John placed his specimen cup in the metal wall compartment and pressed the green button. "All done," he called out, feeling slightly embarrassed but relieved to be finished. The $100 would help him buy groceries this week. Behind the walls, the blue-skinned scientists rushed to analyze his sample. Under their special light, the specimen glowed with an intense blue-white energy, something that had never happened with any other human sample. The lead scientist, Dr. Carax, could barely contain her excitement. "It's perfect," she whispered to her team. "After testing 10,000 humans, we finally found one with all 7 genetic markers. Alert the High Council immediately." John was just collecting his payment from the front desk when his donor ID number, DN7249, appeared in floating blue numbers above the clinic. He didn't see it at first, too focused on counting his money. But soon, people outside started pointing at the sky and taking pictures with their phones. By the time John stepped outside, identical numbers were appearing in the sky all over the city. His donor ID number floated above every major city on Earth, glowing like neon signs in the afternoon sky. News helicopters circled overhead, and social media exploded with photos and videos of the strange phenomenon. John's phone buzzed with news alerts. Mysterious numbers appear worldwide. Global phenomenon has scientists baffled. Military on high alert as strange symbols fill Earth's skies. Fear gripped his chest as he realized his donor number matched the glowing symbols perfectly. What had he done? What was really going on at that clinic? His questions were answered 3 hours later when massive alien ships appeared in orbit around Earth. Their message, broadcast in all languages, shook human civilization to its core. "People of Earth, we come in peace. For centuries, we have searched the galaxy for specific genetic markers that could save our dying species. Today, one of your kind has provided what we need. To donor DN7249, you are more important than you know. Your genetic material contains properties that could save not just our civilization, but many others across the galaxy." John stood frozen in the street, staring at his donor paperwork with trembling hands. DN7249. His number. His DNA. As people around him panicked and ran, he felt strangely calm. His medical training had taught him about the power of genetic medicine. But this was beyond anything humans had achieved. Police cars raced past with sirens blaring. Military jets roared overhead. And John Martinez, broke medical student, and apparently galaxy-changing genetic donor, realized his life would never be the same again. The simple act of trying to make $100 had just changed the course of human history, and somewhere up there, watching through their advanced technology, the aliens were preparing to meet him. John Martinez stared at the alien ship hovering above New York City. Unlike the sleek spaceships from movies, this one looked like a massive crystal garden, with structures that seemed to grow and shift like living coral. Colors rippled across its surface. Blues, purples, and colors he had no names for. But this ship wasn't alone. Within hours, 5 more alien vessels arrived, each completely different from the others. One looked like a black sphere that absorbed all light. Another appeared to be made of pure energy, flickering like a star wrought close to Earth. "The human must not leave Earth," a deep voice boomed from the black sphere ship. "His genetic material belongs to all species under the galactic code." The crystal ship's response came as shimmering tones that somehow formed words. The luminary found him first. "We have priority rights under Section 7 of the code." John watched this argument play out on every TV channel and phone screen worldwide. He had hidden himself in a small motel on the outskirts of the city, paid for with his last $100. The same 100 he'd earned at the clinic. The irony wasn't lost on him. A soft knock at his door made him freeze. He hadn't ordered food. Nobody knew he was here. "John Martinez," a melodious voice called quietly. "Please don't be afraid. I am Kerala of the Luminary. We need to talk." Against his better judgment, John opened the door. The alien woman standing there took his breath away. She looked almost human, except her skin had a crystalline quality that caught the light like diamonds. Her hair moved as if underwater, though there was no breeze. "How did you find me?" John asked, stepping back to let her in. His medical training kicked in, and he couldn't help noticing how her crystalline skin seemed to pulse with an internal rhythm, like a heartbeat made of light. "Your genetic signature," Corella explained, sitting gracefully on the room's only chair. "It sings to us. That's why you're so important. Your DNA resonates at frequencies we haven't seen in 10,000 years." Outside, another argument erupted between the ships, their voices making the motel windows rattle. Corella winced. "The Drachnid Empire." She gestured to the black sphere ship. "They want to weaponize your genetics. The Quantum Collective," she pointed to the energy ship, "would decode your DNA into pure information. But she paused, her crystalline features softening. "We want to save our children." She waved her hand, and a hologram appeared showing crystalline children, their light dimming, their structures crumbling. "Our species is dying. Each generation, our resonance grows weaker. Soon, we won't be able to maintain our crystalline forms at all." John's phone buzzed. The news showed military vehicles surrounding the motel. Someone had spotted Kerala entering. "We need to leave." Kerala stood quickly. "The Drachnids have infiltrated your Earth governments. They're coming for you." "Leave? To space?" John's voice cracked. "I can't just." The wall exploded inward. Through the dust stepped a massive figure, 8 feet tall, black as space itself, with stars seeming to swirl in its depths. A Drachnid. Kerala moved faster than John thought possible. Her crystalline form shifted, creating a shield of pure light around them both. "Choose now, John Martinez," she said urgently. "Stay and become a test subject for the Drachnids, or come with me and help save an entire species." The Drachnid charged, its form distorting the very air around it. Military helicopters appeared outside the broken wall, spotlights blazing. In the sky above, the alien ships moved into attack positions. John thought of his medical school dreams, wanting to help people, to heal them. Now he could help heal an entire species. Looking at the dying children in Kerala's still-playing hologram, he made his choice. "Get us out of here," he said. Kerala smiled, her crystal form blazing with light. The Drachnid lunged, but too late. John felt a sensation like being turned into starlight, and the motel room vanished around them. The last thing he saw before Earth disappeared completely was his donor ID number, still glowing in the sky, now looking more like a prophecy than a medical record. He had wanted to be a doctor. Now he was about to become part of the biggest medical breakthrough in galactic history. If they could escape the growing fleet of alien ships that were already starting to chase them. The first thing John noticed aboard Corall's ship was that he couldn't tell what was ship and what was crew. The crystalline walls pulsed with the same lifelike rhythm as Corall's skin. Luminary crew members seemed to grow right out of the walls, their forms separating and rejoining with the ship's structure as they worked. "Our ships are alive," Corella explained, noticing his amazement. "They're our ancestors, who chose to transform themselves into vessels to protect future generations." Before John could process this information, the ship shuddered. Through the transparent crystal walls, he saw 3 drachnid vessels emerging from what looked like tears in space itself, their black surfaces consuming nearby starlight. "Luminary vessel," a cold voice echoed through the ship. "Surrender the human, or we will take him by force. His DNA could give us powers beyond imagination." Corall's response was cut short by new arrivals. The energy beings of the quantum collective appeared, their ships looking like captured solar flares. "The genetic code must be preserved as data. Surrender the human for digitization." John watched in awe as space itself became a battlefield. The luminary ship moved like a dancing crystal, dodging energy beams and dark matter projectiles. The ancestor ship's walls thickened around them, creating layers of protection. "There's something you need to see," Corella said, leading John deeper into the ship. They entered a chamber that looked like a garden made of light, but instead of plants, it held thousands of crystal cocoons. Inside each one, a luminary child floated, their light flickering weakly. "The generation chambers," Coralla's voice filled with sadness. "Each crystal child is born with less resonance than the last. Soon, they won't be able to maintain physical form at all. They'll become like fog, dispersing into nothingness." A massive explosion rocked the ship. Through the walls, John saw a new type of vessel arrive. It looked like a mechanical jellyfish, trailing tentacles of pure mathematics. "The Equation Lords," Coralla whispered. "They believe your DNA holds the formula for universal consciousness." The ship's ancestor consciousness spoke directly into their minds. "Hull integrity at 60%. Cannot maintain evasive patterns much longer." John looked at the dying crystal children, then at the fleet of alien ships fighting to capture him. "What makes my DNA so special? I'm just a medical student who needed money for groceries." Corella waved her hand, creating a hologram of his DNA structure. But this wasn't like any DNA model he'd studied in school. The double helix sparkled with tiny points of light, and as he watched, it began to hum a complex melody. "Your genes don't just carry information. They carry music, the song of life itself. We believe your DNA still holds echoes of the universe's original creation song. The drachnids want to use it for power, the quantum collective wants to decode it, and the Equation Lords want to solve it. But she touched one of the crystal cocoons gently. We want to hear the song again, to help our children's light shine bright." Another blast rocked the ship. The ancestor consciousness groaned in pain. "Hull integrity at 40%. Direct hit from drachnid dark matter cannon." Suddenly, John noticed something strange. The weak light from the crystal children seemed to pulse in rhythm with his DNA song. Acting on instinct, he stepped closer to the cocoons and felt something resonate deep within his cells. The children's lights brightened slightly, matching his DNA's frequency. "That's impossible," Corella gasped. "They're responding to your presence. No outside influence has ever affected the resonance before." Before they could explore this discovery, the ship's walls turned blood red. "Warning," the ancestor announced. "Drachnid boarding pods detected. Hull breach imminent." Through the crystal walls, John saw the black sphere ships launching what looked like drops of living darkness. The mechanical jellyfish of the Equation Lords moved to intercept, their mathematical tentacles trying to calculate a blockade. The Quantum Collective's energy vessels began a complex dance that seemed to bend space itself. Cruella grabbed his hand. Her touch sent sparkles of resonance through his body. "Choose now, John Martinez. Let me take you deeper into the ship where it's safe. Or what? Or do what no human has ever done. Join with the ship's consciousness. If your DNA really carries the original song, you might be able to save us all. But the process could destroy you." The first boarding pod hit the hull with a sound like shattering dreams. John looked at the dying children, then at the battle outside. He had wanted to help people by becoming a doctor. Now the universe was giving him a chance to help on a scale he never imagined. He squeezed Coralla's crystalline hand and made his choice. "Show me how to sing." The walls of the generation chamber began to pulse with light, preparing for something that had never been attempted in the history of the galaxy. Outside, the Drachnid boarding pods continued their approach, bringing with them warriors made of living darkness. Time was running out. Inside the generation chamber, John stood in a circle of singing crystals as Coralla's ancestors prepared him for the consciousness merge. His DNA's song grew louder, harmonizing with the ship's ancient melody. "Once the merge begins," Corella explained, her crystalline form glowing with nervous energy, "your consciousness will join with the ship's ancestors. No human has ever." She suddenly stumbled, her crystal skin flickering like a faulty light. John caught her before she fell, and where their skin touched, waves of blue-white energy pulsed between them. "Corella." The ship's ancestor consciousness spoke with alarm. "Your resonance patterns, they're changing." The chamber's walls projected a scan of Coralla's crystalline structure. John's medical training helped him understand what he was seeing, even in this alien form. Her internal matrix was shifting, creating new patterns that looked surprisingly like DNA, he whispered in amazement. "Your crystalline structure is forming DNA helixes." Before they could process this discovery, the ship shuddered violently. Through the walls, they saw Drachnid boarding pods burning through the hull with dark energy. The Equation Lord's mathematical tentacles tried to block them with formula barriers, while the Quantum Collective's energy beings attempted to teleport the invaders away. "Hull breach in 3 minutes," the ancestor consciousness announced. "Coralla's condition is accelerating. These changes are unprecedented." Coralla's crystal skin had begun to pulse with a dual rhythm, her normal crystalline resonance mixed with something that matched John's heartbeat. When she spoke, her voice shook. "I feel warm. Luminary don't feel temperature. What's happening to me?" The chamber sensors went wild. Data crystals grew from the walls, displaying readings that made the luminary scientists gasp. Where Coralla's pure crystal structure should have been, new patterns were emerging, a hybrid of crystalline resonance and human DNA. "Impossible," one scientist whispered. "She's adapting human biological properties. The genetic song is rewriting her basic structure." A blast rocked the ship. Through gaps in the hull, they could see the Drachnid warriors approaching, their dark forms rippling with stolen genetic powers from 1,000 worlds. Behind them, the Equation Lords had begun a mathematical chant that made reality itself waver. "John," Corella said weakly, her form now shimmering with both crystalline light and human DNA patterns, I think I'm pregnant." The words hung in the chamber like suspended starlight. The scientists' data crystals exploded with readings. The ancestor consciousness fell silent in shock. John's medical knowledge kicked in. He looked at the scans, seeing something extraordinary. Inside Coralla's transforming body, a tiny form was taking shape, not purely crystal, not purely human, but something entirely new. It pulsed with both the universe's original song from his DNA and the crystal resonance of the luminary. The child, the ancestor consciousness finally spoke. It's producing its own song, a harmony that has never existed before. Through the ship's crystal walls, they saw the attacking fleet suddenly stop. Every alien species could sense it, the new song beginning to pulse from within Kerala. It was the genetic song from John's DNA, but transformed through luminary resonance into something that touched all forms of life. The Drachnid warriors paused in their advance, their dark forms swaying to the new harmony. The Equation Lord's mathematical tentacles began solving equations that had been impossible moments before. The quantum collective's energy patterns shifted into new frequencies. "This changes everything," Kerala whispered, placing her hand over the tiny hybrid life growing within her. Where her crystal skin had once been transparent, it now held swirls of DNA-like patterns that glowed with both human and luminary light. But they weren't safe yet. The ship's hull continued to crack under the strain of battle. The Drachnids, though affected by the new song, still pressed forward, driven by their ancient hunger for genetic power. The Equation Lords had begun a new calculation, trying to quantify the impossible hybrid life they detected. Kerala's transformation accelerated. Parts of her crystal form now showed signs of human cellular structure, while John's skin had begun to shimmer with traces of crystalline resonance where they touched. Their child's song grew stronger, offering hope of survival to the dying crystal children, yet also making them an even more tempting target for the forces surrounding them. The ancestor consciousness spoke urgently. "We must protect them both. This child, it's not just a hybrid. It's a bridge between all living things. If the Drachnids capture it, they could use its power to enslave the galaxy. If the Equation Lords decode it, they could rewrite the laws of reality." John looked at Kerala, at the miracle growing within her, and at the battle raging outside. He had come to space hoping to help save one species. Now he faced a choice that would affect all life in the galaxy. "The consciousness merge," he said firmly. "We do it now. Not just me. Both of us. Kerala, the baby, and me. If our hybrid energy is strong enough to affect all these species, maybe joined with the ancestors." Kerala's eyes widened, crystal tears falling like stardust. It's never been tried with more than one being, let alone. Another blast rocked the ship. The Drachnids were nearly through the hull. "Then we'll be the first," John said, taking her hand as the ancestor consciousness began the merge sequence. "After all, we're already pretty good at impossible things." Around them, the generation chamber hummed with power as it prepared for the most dangerous and important moment in galactic history. The consciousness merge lit up space like a newborn star. John, Kerala, their unborn child, and the ship's ancestor consciousness became a single entity of light, crystal, and DNA. The Drachnid boarding parties froze as waves of pure genetic resonance washed over them. But something unexpected happened. Instead of just joining minds, their bodies began to change. John's skin developed patches of living crystal that flowed like liquid diamonds. Kerala's crystalline form gained human warmth and flexibility, her pregnancy creating swirls of hybrid energy that danced between both states. The ancestor ship's walls pulsed with new patterns, not just crystal, not just organic, but something that defied classification. "We are many and one." They spoke together, their voices harmonizing with the universe's original song. Through their merged consciousness, they could see everything. The desperate Drachnids whose stolen genetics were failing them. The Equation Lords calculating the impossible math of their existence. The quantum collective trying to digitize their new hybrid patterns. More importantly, they could see the truth. The Drachnids, Kerala's voice emerged from their shared mind. They're dying too. Their genetic theft only delays the inevitable. Through their enhanced vision, they watched dark matter eating away at the Drachnids' stolen DNA. Each new genetic power they absorbed accelerated their decay. Their black sphere ships weren't weapons. They were life support systems. The ship surged with power as their hybrid child's song grew stronger. In the generation chamber, the crystal children's lights pulsed in sync with the new harmony. But this power came with a price. The merger was consuming enormous energy, and the ship's systems began to strain. Multiple ships approaching, the ancestor part of their consciousness warned. The Drachnids have called their entire fleet. Through the crystal walls, now veined with strands of living DNA, they watched as 50 black sphere ships emerged from space tiers. Behind them came the sovereign science fleet of the Equation Lords, their mathematical tentacles already weaving formulas to capture the hybrid energy. Your genetic power must be preserved. The Drachnid Emperor's voice boomed across space. Surrender, and we will make your evolution our highest priority. John's medical knowledge, enhanced by the merge, understood instantly. They don't want to steal this power. They can't. Their genetic structure is too unstable. They want us to save them. Gralla completed his thought through their shared consciousness. Like my people. Like all people. Their unborn child's song pulsed stronger, resonating with every species nearby. The hybrid energy patterns in their merged form began shifting, creating something new. A genetic template that could adapt to any life form. But the ship was failing. The power required to maintain their merged state was burning through the ancestors' crystalline matrix. Dark fractures appeared in the walls, leaking stellar energy. We can't sustain this, the ancestor consciousness warned. A hybrid transformation is too powerful. We must separate or risk total molecular collapse. Through their merged senses, they felt a new presence approaching. The quantum collective's energy ships had surrounded them in a complex pattern. Your hybrid genetic codes are causing quantum entanglement across multiple dimensions, they announced. Reality itself is being rewritten by your existence. In the generation chamber, something miraculous was happening. The crystal children were changing, their weak resonance patterns strengthening as they absorbed the hybrid energy. But they weren't becoming pure crystal again. They were evolving into something new, like John and Coralla. The Drachnid fleet opened fire, not with weapons, but with containment fields designed to capture and preserve genetic material. The Equation Lords began a mathematical ritual that would solve the equation of their existence, trying to force their hybrid form into logical patterns. Inside their merged consciousness, John and Coralla made a discovery that changed everything. Their hybrid transformation wasn't just affecting them, it was spreading. Every species that came in contact with their energy began showing signs of change. The Drachnid's dark matter decay slowed. The Equation Lord's mathematical constructs gained organic properties. The quantum collective's energy patterns developed crystalline structures. We're not just changing. John's voice echoed through their shared mind. We're showing them how to change themselves. Coralla's consciousness surged with understanding. The universe's original song. It wasn't meant to stay the same. It was meant to evolve. Their unborn child's song reached a crescendo, harmonizing with every form of life around them. But at that moment, the ship's structure began to collapse. The power of their merger had become too much for even the ancestors' ancient crystalline form to contain. Emergency separation required. The ancestor consciousness declared, but there's a problem. Our patterns have merged too deeply. Separation might. Might what? John's thoughts asked. Might scatter us across multiple dimensions, Coralla finished. We'll exist everywhere and nowhere. Through the failing ship's walls, they watched the combined fleets of 3 civilizations preparing for a final assault. Behind them, more ships arrived, species they didn't even recognize, drawn by the hybrid energy reshaping the galaxy. In the generation chamber, the transforming crystal children reached out with their new hybrid powers. Trying to help stabilize the ship, the ancestor consciousness began an emergency protocol never before attempted. They had moments to decide. Stay merged and risk being scattered across dimensions, or separate and lose the power that was changing the galaxy. The ship's crystal walls cracked like breaking ice. Time had run out. Together, they all thought as one, their hybrid form blazing with impossible light. Whatever happens, we face it together. Space itself held its breath as the ancestor ship's containment finally failed, releasing the full power of their hybrid transformation into the waiting galaxy. When the ancestor ship shattered, it didn't explode. It bloomed. The crystalline structure transformed into a cosmic flower of living light, each petal a blend of human DNA, luminary crystal, and pure energy. At its center, John and Coralia's merged form pulsed like a newborn galaxy. Their hybrid child chose that moment to begin its birth. The birth process wasn't just physical, it was cosmic. Each contraction sent waves of genetic resonance across space, causing spontaneous evolution in every species it touched. Drachnid warriors found their dark matter decay reversing. Equation lords watched their mathematical tentacles sprout organic crystals. The quantum collective's energy patterns began forming double helix structures of pure light. The child comes. Coralia's voice echoed through space, her crystalline form now swirled with strands of glowing DNA. But not just our child, everyone's child. Through their still-merged consciousness, they understood. Their baby wasn't just a hybrid of two species, it was a key that unlocked the next stage of evolution for all life. The universe's original song wasn't just music, it was a genetic instruction manual for cosmic transformation. The Drachnid Emperor's black sphere ship moved closer, its surface now rippling with patches of crystal and organic matter. The prophecy of the star seed, his voice resonated with newfound harmony. Our ancestors spoke of a time when all life would remember its common origin. The mathematical constant of life, the equation lords chanted, their ship's tentacles now growing hybrid flowers of numbers and light. The formula that proves all existence is one equation. The birth process accelerated. Coralia's pain translated into pulses of evolutionary energy. Each wave changed the fabric of space itself. Stars began singing in harmony with their child's emerging consciousness. Planets in nearby systems sprouted crystalline forests that grew in seconds. Ancient dormant genes in every living thing awakened. But darkness gathered at the edges of space. Ancient beings, older than the original song itself, sensed the change coming. They had worked for billions of years to keep species separate, to prevent the universe from remembering its unified origin. Look, John's consciousness merged with the ancestors' knowledge. The space between, it's alive. The vacuum between stars rippled like dark water. Massive shapes emerged. The space weavers, beings who had engineered the great separation of species after the original song. Their forms defied comprehension, existing in multiple dimensions at once. The Selengi must remain forgotten. Their thoughts boomed across creation. Separation is survival. The space weavers unleashed their power, trying to rewrite the genetic codes that John and Coralia's child was awakening. But they hadn't counted on one thing. The child was born of love, not just biology. At the moment of birth, their baby opened eyes that shone with the light of creation itself. Its first cry was the original song, but evolved, transformed. Not a song of separation, but of reunion. The hybrid child existed in multiple states simultaneously. Human flesh swirled with living crystal, solid matter transformed into pure energy and back again. Its DNA wasn't a fixed code, but a living symphony that rewrote itself moment by moment. The space weavers recoiled as the new song undid billions of years of their work. Species that they had carefully kept apart began remembering their shared origin. The barriers between organic, crystal, energy, and mathematical life dissolved. Through their merged consciousness, John and Coralia witnessed civilizations across the galaxy transforming. The Drachnid's genetic hunger turned to genetic sharing. The equation lord's rigid mathematics blossomed into organic calculations. The quantum collective's pure energy gained the ability to form matter. Their baby reached out with tiny hands that sparked with creation energy. Where the space weavers had built walls between species, the child built bridges. Where they had enforced separation, the child taught harmony. But the space weavers had one last weapon, the void of unmaking, a tear in reality that could erase the original song itself. As they prepared to unleash it, every transformed species in range made a choice. The Drachnid fleet surrounded John, Coralia, and their child in a sphere of protective darkness. The equation lords wove mathematical shields of impossible complexity. The quantum collective created a network of energy that connected all present life forms into a single, harmonious entity. Their hybrid child looked at the approaching void and did something unexpected. It laughed. The sound carried the joy of creation itself, the delight of existence, the wonder of being. That laugh became a new song, one that even the space weavers couldn't resist. We, remember, the ancient beings resonated, their forms beginning to transform. We were life. Once. The void of unmaking collapsed in on itself as the space weavers remembered their own origin in the first song. Their dark forms blazed with long-forgotten light as they joined the universal transformation. In the center of it all, John and Corella held their impossible child, the first of a new kind of life, but not the last. Through their merged consciousness, they sensed similar hybrid births beginning across the galaxy as all of life remembered how to evolve together. The universe's original song had never ended. It had only been waiting for someone to sing it in a new way. 1 year after the birth that changed the galaxy, Earth had become unrecognizable, yet more itself than ever before. Crystal spires grown from human DNA merged with organic skyscrapers. People existed in multiple forms simultaneously, shifting between flesh, crystal, energy, and newer states of being that had no names yet. John stood at the top of the New Life Institute, which had evolved from a simple fertility clinic into a cosmic research center. His body flickered between its hybrid states, sometimes human with crystalline patches, sometimes pure energy with DNA patterns, sometimes all forms at once. Krill appeared beside him, their child Nova floating between them in a bubble of quantum possibility. At 1 year old, Nova could already speak in songs that created new forms of life. Their laughter caused spontaneous evolution in nearby matter. The first generation of natural hybrids is ready to emerge, Corella said, her form a beautiful blend of crystal and human features. She gestured to the nursery wing, where eggs of light pulsed with new possibilities. Humans and Luminary weren't the only ones breeding now. All species had discovered they could merge, creating endless new forms of life. The transformed space weavers had become teachers, sharing the ancient knowledge they had once hidden. Their vast forms now wove new patterns into reality, helping life explore its unlimited potential. Where they had once enforced separation, they now celebrated union. Quantum report from the galactic core, a voice chimed. One of the equation lords, their mathematical tentacles now growing gardens of living formulas. The universal resonance has reached harmony level 12. Reality stabilization at 99.9%. Through the crystal walls, they watched ships arriving from across the galaxy. Each vessel was unique, some grown from living metal, others woven from pure thought, many existing in forms that defied old concepts of matter and energy. All had come for the first convergence. Nova reached out with tiny hands that sparked with creation energy, touching the wall. Where their fingers met the crystal, new life forms sprouted. Tiny universes in miniature, each one experimenting with different laws of physics and biology. "They're ready," John said, feeling the resonance building. Today, representatives from every known species would join in the greatest experiment yet, a galaxy-wide consciousness merge. The drachnids arrived first, their dark matter forms now sparkling with internal stars. They had transformed their genetic hunger into a gift for combining DNA patterns in beautiful new ways. Their ships were living gardens of evolving darkness and light. The quantum collective came next, their energy forms now capable of creating solid matter infused with consciousness. They had learned to encode love into their quantum calculations, making mathematics itself come alive. From the edge of known space came new species discovered after the transformation. Beings of pure song, entities made of living time, creatures that existed as pure possibility until observed. All had been changed by Nova's birth song. All had remembered their shared origin in the first moment of creation. Corella touched her belly, where another child grew. This one conceived naturally between their hybrid forms. The scientists say this one's DNA patterns suggest it might be able to create new fundamental forces. She smiled. Apparently our family has a gift for impossible things. Nova sang a greeting to their unborn sibling, the sound causing nearby air to transform into floating crystals that told stories in light. The Space Weavers resonated in harmony, their ancient knowledge combining with new evolution. "Ready?" John asked, taking Corralla's hand as Nova floated between them. Around the planet, millions of other beings prepared for the merge. Even Earth's plants and animals would join, their DNA awakened by the original song. The convergence began with a single note, Nova's laugh. It rippled outward, carrying the joy of pure existence. Every being added their own harmony to the sound. Humans contributed their adaptability, Luminary their resonance, Drachnids their understanding of genetic power, Equation Lords their grasp of universal patterns, Quantum Collective their mastery of energy. The Space Weavers wove it all together, creating something entirely new. A galaxy-wide consciousness that preserved each individual while creating a greater whole. Stars began singing in harmony. Planets pulsed with shared thoughts. Space itself came alive with possibility. In orbit, the transformed ancestor ship, now a living garden of crystal, flesh, and energy, recorded everything. Future generations would know this as the moment life remembered its true nature. Not separate species competing for survival, but one endless song expressing itself in infinite ways. Nova reached out, touching the point where all consciousnesses merge. In their child's eyes, John and Coralla saw the future. Endless evolution, infinite forms of love, eternal discovery. Their simple act of creating life together had reminded the universe how to dream. And somewhere, in the quantum foam between moments, the universe's original song played on, now harmonizing with countless new melodies, creating a symphony that would never end. What happens next? Someone asked through the merged consciousness. Nova smiled, their form shifting through 1,000 possibilities at once. Everything, they sang. Everything happens next. The galaxy sparkled with new life, and the next great adventure began.